All right. The gameplay's going. Looks like we're ready to rock now, fellas. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Xbox Roundtable Podcast. This is your source for Xbox news and more on Sunday nights. This being show number 255. I'm your host, Invader, and hey, you know what? I'm really happy to be here tonight. I mean, I usually am. I get to talk about games, talk with the guys. It's really awesome. But as per usual, we got a slew of really good topics, good talking points, and of course, heading into Christmas and New Year's, we're all a little merry, right? We're all a little merry, a little more chill, and just that time of the year. Tonight, we plan to get into many things, including the newly released game High on Life, our impressions of it, a possible Xbox game showcase in January, and our Game of the Year picks, plus a few other odds and ends topics, you could say. I'm looking forward to all of this, but first, I have to introduce everybody on the show tonight. Kicking things off with Centurion. Pal, how's it going?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Freaking, it's Sunday. It's basically podcast day for me. Just got off Gaming Beyond the Box, ready to start the second half of my podcasting night. And I mean, at least for me, it's been a damn good week in gaming. I've got Elder Scrolls Online, just started the New Life Festival. It's always the festival that gets me sucked back into the game for the next year. Also been trying to hammer out Outer Worlds. And then, of course, here comes Game Pass with High on Life. And I have been putting a lot of time in High on Life. I'm pretty much got like, I'm on the last alien before I get to go after Gargantuan, the leader of G3.
Hmm. Interesting. I'm still pretty early on. I think I'm on Zephyr, I think it's called, or whatever. But I know I'm still early on.
You
Uh,
know what the
mhm.
funny part is, like, about the biomes in that game is, even though you can, you know, like I will say it right now, there's a lot more to those levels than you realize. It's just you don't have the equipment to go to certain parts of the level,
Yes, yes.
and they have done such a good job of hiding those parts of the parts of the world that it totally blows your mind when you go back to find another one of the basically the generals of the cartel, and you're like, I've already been here. I didn't even know this was here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I totally know what you mean. With the levels, how they're designed. I could definitely tell even early on that they're that way. Moving down the list, we got Crusader. Bud, pal, how you been?
Oh, I'm good. Um, yeah, it's been a really good week in gaming for me personally. I finished the base game of the Ascent, and I was very iffy on that game when I first started playing it, but I found a build that I really ended up liking towards the end, and probably gonna get the DLC at some point and play through that. Um, and I played and beat High on Life, though I found out there's like a secret epilogue ending that is not like part of the main ending that I'm gonna need to go through and do. So I'll have to reinstall that. Um, and I've started my first playthrough ever of The Witcher 3. Um, I started it on Thursday after I beat High on Life. And
Uh,
I'm off for the next 2.5 weeks because I start a new job in the new year. And I'm gonna be playing The Witcher 3 for like degenerate hours, and it's gonna be great. I haven't had a vacation like this forever.
so how much time have you put into Witcher 3 so far?
Oh my God, who I could tell you, I can look it up.
No,
Probably
I'm
already
just
20
curious. I'm
hours.
more curious on the optimization and how the game update is actually running on. Are you playing it console or PC?
Console. So it's in Novigrad and Oxenfurt, the two major cities that I have been to so far, like the big ones. I have some frame dips, but it's not like it's hitting 30 FPS. It's probably in the high 50s or mid 50s. But that's the only area where I've had performance issues. I have had a couple of crashes, but I think it has to do with the game having been on for so long, because it generally happens after I've been playing for like 6 hours each time. And there's probably just a low-key memory leak, and a lot of games have that, and like developers don't realize it because people don't play like I play. Like they don't play like 6 hours a day like this. So like they probably don't
Well,
even know this is an issue.
with how
Um,
with instant resume nowadays, they should be, because actually I've had a lot of games like when you try
Yeah.
to go play them after instant resume,
And they bug
they just-
out.
They
Yep.
bug out because technically the game's been running in the background.
Yep.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's really good. It is much better looking than when I first tried to play it a long time ago. I only got like 2 hours in. And it's much better looking than that, I will say. And it's I am not playing it on the I'm not playing it on the visual mode. I'm playing it on the performance mode because I could care less about the slightly better visuals. I much prefer the performance. So,
All right, good
but
to
yeah,
know.
it's fairly good so far.
Yeah, no, I've been hearing a lot of good things with the updates to the game for current gen consoles, and yeah, it makes me tempted to play it, but I probably shouldn't. My backlog, I just noticed, is a lot worse than I thought, so we'll have to see about that. Moving down the list here, General MLD, buddy, how's the weekend been?
Hey, yeah, doing pretty good here. Solid week. I beat Plague Tale Requiem, solid sequel. Beat my 50th game of the year, Far Cry 4. Moving on to Far Cry 6, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I just started Far Cry 6, but I think I'll move on to High on Life after. Just, yeah, like you said, backlog is insane, but I think High on Life, we'll get into it in a bit, but yeah, that looks increasingly interesting, so I'm going to try that in the new year, I think. But yeah, just can't wait to just talk around with the guys and just have a good time.
Yeah, no, totally. Yes, we will be diving into High on Life for sure. But first, let's see who else do we got here. Oh, Shockley, buddy. I see that you snuck in there at the end. How are you been?
Pretty good. Been hearing some. We'll get into it with the High on Life stuff, but definitely intrigued with that one since I fell off of the what was that Rick and Morty show, but I watched quite a few seasons of that one, so I always thought their humor from what I watched was pretty good. So, but definitely need to actually jump on the Plague's Tale. Been meaning to start that, but I've been sucked into Pokemon Go recently. Hadn't touched it in like since 2018, but since new Pokemon games have recently released on Switch, been getting my life sucked away into that in between working. So, but I'm gonna try to get back on the box here soon this week and get some Plague's Tale started. Second one,
All right.
but not much other than that.
Sounds good. Yeah, no, you brought up some pretty good games there. Hell, even Pokemon Go. Damn, I haven't touched that in a while.
They've added a lot to it. There's like so many other things since 2018. At least I think that was the last time I touched it. It's like, oh, okay, more stuff to draw you in. I mean, that's one thing that Xbox is doing with the whole mobile thing. They're trying to. They know there's a huge platform out there and a ton of slew of people that they don't actually have tapped into that market. So, yep.
All right. Yeah, no, good to know. Good to know. Timmy won't be making it tonight. He's out partying it up. Something like that, anyways. But don't worry, guys. You'll catch him back in the new year. And of course, guys, before we start, you can follow us along on many different platforms, whether it be audio or visual. We got Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Rumble, you name it. We're probably there, to be honest. We're on a lot of different things. So if you're on those platforms, be sure to give us a sub, a like, whatever it may be, share it out. And yeah, again, we'd love to have you there, wherever it may be. All the links to our other video platforms, audio platforms in the description below. But on that note, gentlemen, let's go straight into things by talking about a very, very interesting game. Well, it turned out to be anyways. As I can see everybody in the chat kind of bringing it up now. This week saw the release of High on Life, the very colorful shooter that has hit Xbox platforms, Game Pass, and so on. I've personally noticed a substantial amount of talk on social media about this one, and has game journalists and the average Go Joe Gamer kind of butting heads. Like if you've looked at different reviews, it's kind of head scratching, to be honest, the differences between the two. And hey, I gotta say, I'm curious what everyone here on the panel thinks of it. I know a few people on the panel have touched it, including myself. Crusader, my fellow gaming fanatic, why don't I lead off with you on this one? I know you've spent some time with it. What are your thoughts on High on Life?
Yeah, so, when it comes to reviewers, I don't think they're critically off base necessarily. Because it's a typical trend with like comedy or action or superheroes or things like that for them to be. Reviews are typically written in one direction of like a high culture kind of direction, no matter what they're reviewing. And this is the opposite of any form of high culture. It is raw comedy, and so I personally didn't expect this to review well. It's right about where I thought it would. It's a little lower because the skew with that one reviewer who gave it a 3 out of 10, that I disagree with. But the scores are good. However, this game has done some insane analytics for Game Pass and Xbox in general. It is currently sitting at number 1 on cloud gaming. I don't know the last time that like a game took the number 1 spot on cloud gaming that wasn't a sequel replacing its former, because that was Forza Horizon 5 replacing Forza Horizon 4. Before that, I don't know that anything's ever dethroned like Forza Horizon in cloud for being the top. It's number 2 on console, only behind Minecraft for Game Pass. It's number 2 on PC, only behind Solitaire. Because Solitaire is actually included with Game Pass. For those who don't know, you actually get like an ad-free version, and you get like more card backs and stuff like that. It's actually really nice. They do it on mobile too. It's really cool. But it's number 2 on PC as well, and then on Xbox in general, like just like on the storefront, which includes Game Pass metrics and sales metrics. Basically it's all players, because the currently like most played includes Game Pass metrics, from what I understand. It's currently number 4, and the last game to break into the top 5 that strongly as a new release and not a sequel, I believe, was Elden Ring. So it's like it's doing Elden Ring numbers. That's crazy. This is probably to date the most powerful Xbox third-party game that's come to Game Pass day 1. Plague Tale didn't do numbers like this. While Persona was really good for like the Japanese market and like sector, it didn't do numbers anywhere close to like this. Outriders and MLB was probably the second behind it, but neither of them have done numbers close to this. This is really, really, really wild analytics. Like this, if they come out and say how many players have played High on Life next week, maybe they will, maybe they won't. That's up to the developers to share data. It's going to be in the millions, not like 1 million, but 2, 3, maybe 4 million players. It's insanity how insane that is. It boggles the mind. Like if you want some more detailed overview on it, Benji Sales on Twitter has done some stuff with it and analyzing it. Personally, I loved the game. I thought it was great. It wasn't perfect. There were some audio issues and things like that. It's not a perfect game. It's not a 9 out of 10 game. It's a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10 game. But that doesn't mean it's a bad game. That doesn't mean it shouldn't be played. That doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. It's very fun. One of the biggest surprises of the year. I thoroughly played it from start to finish. Right. It was absolutely worth the play. I don't know if I would have paid $60 for it. Right. But certainly worth the day 1 Game Pass play. Probably one of the best. Like I said, one of the best examples of how you can how third-party developers can utilize Game Pass, because this is a debuted title from it's Squanch Games' first game, I think, right? Because it's Jason.
I believe so.
Justin Rowland created the studio. I think. And if they have made other things, they're small Adult Swim games. This is their first major game, and they debuted it day one on Game Pass to overwhelming success. It's also, for record, it's number 2 in sales on Steam. The only thing in and on Steam does all of their counting by revenue, not by units sold. The only thing it's behind on Steam is the Steam Deck, which is like between I think 450 and 650, 450, 550. I don't remember the exact range of revenue that a Steam Deck can cost depending on which version you get, but it's only behind the Steam Deck. It's insane. It's beating out Call of Duty in sales on Steam. That's wild. That a indie game is doing that, right? And it's really high quality. Like I said, there's only a few bugs. There's some bugs with the audio where like sometimes the audio just doesn't work for certain characters talking. And I loved the gunplay. I loved that it kind of felt like a first-person Ratchet and Clank with less guns, but the guns all had a different like personality, like literally. And I was thoroughly loving every second of it. Supposedly there is a secret ending, so I will be going back to get the secret ending, but I'm too entrenched in The Witcher now. The story was okay. It felt like a couple episodes of frickin' Morty. Like that's what it felt like, and it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
It's not a particularly good like narrative, but it's funny, and that was the whole point, right? It's a comedy. It's not a hyper narrative driven game. It is there to like all of the characters are there to be funny and to be like to give you different situations of comedy, and it pulls that off very well in my opinion if you like this style of humor.
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically all I have to say about it. It was entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever played the game Oddworld Stranger's Wrath by chance?
I haven't played any of the Oddworld games. They're like on the I kind of want to get them and play them, but they're not on the backlog yet.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, no, it just when I first saw this game with the weapons, I'm like, okay, this kind of reminds me of it because it was a first-person game, and it had these weapons, and they're all like creature related, and they they didn't talk to you or anything. They just be like they were very like simple creatures, but they all had a different characteristic to them, a different purpose, and so on. And it just heavily reminds me of this game. I mean, I only have Kenny right now, but like, I've seen the other weapons, and like they all have their different functions, their uses. And it's very unique to see something like that, to see spins. I don't see like a lot of games like giving personality to their weapons like that. So that's what kind of drew me to the game. And I gotta say the gunplay is actually a lot tighter than I thought. I mean,
yeah,
it's
is.
fun. It's fun.
It also reminded me slightly of Doom.
Yes.
Not incredibly, right, but like slightly of Doom in how like you kill the enemies and they drop things that give you more shields, and you kind of have your rotating wheel of guns that you're just kind of alternating between, and it felt like there was some inspiration there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I'd heard a lot of criticisms about just the talking in the game overall. Like it just kind of overloads people. Personally, again, I'm only a few hours into the game, but like I got kind of drawn in easily. I haven't really been bothered too much about like all of the conversations going on personally, but I don't know, what's your thoughts on that, the criticisms on that?
Writers for it. So, I mean, it didn't bother me, right? But like, again, Rick and Morty, like the show, is a lot like that. But I guess it can be droning because this is like more of like an 8-9 hour experience rather than like a 20-minute episode experience. It personally didn't bother me. But there are sliders that if it's bothering you, you can like turn it to like 10%, and you should be fine. Like, so yeah, I wasn't particularly bothered by the incessant talking.
All right.
I also incessantly talk, so.
Well, that's a good thing for a podcast, right? So,
I guess.
right. So I don't mind. I don't mind when you talk at all. So no worries, pal. No, it didn't. It hasn't really bothered me yet. But again, I'm still early on, so maybe it will get to me. But we will see. Again, guys, I'm not like I haven't actually watched a Rick and Morty show. Maybe I have. Maybe I should. I know people who are diehard Rick and Morty fans, and I tell them about High on Life, and they're just like scratching their head. I'm like, it's a game made by a few of the guys behind Rick and Morty. But I don't know, you try and get people to get into these games, but try and do some word of mouth advertising. But what can you do? Let's see, Centurion pal. I know that you've spent time with the game. Sounds like you're pretty far into it. Yeah, what's your thoughts on the game?
Well, I've been trying to at least, hype this game since I found out it was coming out. No, I'm not a Rick and Morty fan. I haven't kept up with that show. I think I've watched one episode that involved a character called Pickle Rick. And that was because a friend of mine wanted me to see it. At least for me, the reason why I really wanted to at least be excited for this game is this game represents a genre of gaming that is almost considered passé. Phil Spencer himself even tries to denounce games like this. Like he doesn't want to admit that Conker's Bad Fur Day kind of helped like make Rare who they are. He doesn't want to, it's like anytime you try to bring up Conker's Bad Fur Day, instantly Phil Spencer wants to change the conversation. And with how society is getting now, if you're out here demanding for there to be a Conker's Bad Fur Day game, or you enjoyed South Park, the Stick of Truth, or the Fractured But Whole, this is a game up that avenue of just really off-putting humor that just makes you go like, what the hell did he just say? Are they serious? But in a way, I mean, like, you're laughing at some of the whippy things that the weapons say. I mean, you want to hear it start having real fun? Put the controller down and don't touch the controller for a few minutes, and all of a sudden the gun will start accusing you of going off and doing things very, certain things. I mean, it was funny. I set the controller down and you could hear it yelling at you from across the room on why aren't you playing the game? And all of a sudden it starts talking about about the things you could possibly be doing. And it was just making me laugh my ass off. This game, definitely, I was worried that it was just going to be absolutely just in-your-face humor, but didn't have really strong gameplay. And to answer your question, Crusader, they have actually developed other games. They've done Accounting, which was in 2016. They did Dr. Splotchy Presents Space Heroes, and then the one that a lot of people for some reason mention, I've never played any of them, was Trover Saves the Universe. But this would be their first big title. Wasn't this supposed to come out on Stadia?
Yes,
Was,
this
yeah.
and The Quarry were supposed to be Stadia exclusives, and
Yeah,
that actually kind of would have been wild.
and right, and now that's the funny part, though. Like, this shows that, Squanch Games could have had this game disappear into the wind, and Microsoft obviously came in, wrote them a check, said, hey, let's put this on Game Pass and buy some timed exclusivity, and they pretty much were able to make this not be like a Typhoon Games type of, like, Typhoon Games created the Savage Planet. Google bought them out, made them a first party studio. They shut down Stadia, and Typhoon Games literally disappeared into the wind, and Journey to the Savage Planet was an awesome game. So it's good to see that Squanch was able to, rise out of the situation that was closed down, the situation with the closure of Stadia, and they brought this game out. And that's what I was like. It goes beyond just the humor and the wittiness of everything. I'm actually enjoying the gunplay mechanics. Like, I mean, it's not just shooting a character and you're downing them. You actually, like, if you shoot them, like, some of them are wearing this like jelly style like armor to make them like bullet sponges, basically. And when you shoot them in the shoulder, you see like the jelly come off on the shoulder or wherever you're shooting. And if you pull off headshots, you'll literally get all the jelly off their head and you'll shoot them one time in the head and the head pops off. And so the gunplay is actually very fun, the different style guns. And as you progress through the game, the guns just don't make it's not like they're just these add-along characters that make the gun talk to you. The guns actually hold conversation with you. They hold conversation amongst themselves as you start having more guns on you. And it really made for a very interesting experience when it came to the actual gameplay. I've been having a lot of fun with it. Literally, they get high, the aliens get high on life. The story is basically revolving around the concept of, is it proper to get high off of a living species, but while you're getting high off of them, you're essentially killing them. And it's definitely a very different game. My wife has been sitting here right next to me watching me play it, and even there's times she's like, what the hell did they just say? My only criticism, especially when, like comments like, hey, you want to get my gloop shot out of my trick hole. Like, she looked at me for like, what the hell did he just say? I'm like, you heard what he said? He didn't stutter. But definitely, I have to laugh at these reviewers that seem to act like they're doing the world a service. Like, don't let your kids play this game. What in God's hell did you think? What made you think this game was for kids in the first place? And it has a mature rating for a reason. This game is not for kids. And that's what cracks me up, that literally, like, all these reviewers seem to want to be like acting like something like this shouldn't be allowed, but they're all going to go out and champion Grand Theft Auto 5 for everything it does, when literally you can go pick up a hooker and go drive down a back alley in Grand Theft Auto 5 with a hooker. But heaven forbid you have game characters throw the F-bomb at each other multiple times and make a couple sick crude jokes, heaven forbid. My only critique on the game is, like Crusader said, it's not a perfect game. And I think he kind of like, really, it's like good 7, 8, 7.5, hit it in the middle. And it's purely because I've experienced audio issues where in the middle of a conversation with you and an alien and the gun, the audio cuts out on the gun, and all of a sudden you don't hear the audio and you have to like watch the subtitles to even know what the gun is saying. I've had I have a loot box that is currently, I put it on Twitter trying to find out from the developers over High on Life, is it supposed to be like this? Like, I literally have a loot box that's under the ground of the environment. I don't think it's supposed to be that way, because you could see the 2 antennas from the loot box sticking up out of the ground. So that, I don't think it's supposed to be that way. Sometimes the audio, the music is real low, the speech is real low, and you pull the trigger on the gun and you're like scrambling for the TV, for the surround sound remote, because the gun is louder than anything else in the game. So you could tweak that in the settings of the audio, but I definitely would say there's some good audio issues to the game. And even then, I've had the game crash on me a few times. Like, as a matter of fact, just before I went on Gaming Beyond the Box, I was trying to get through an area, and the game literally crashed at 15 minutes before Gaming Beyond the Box. So I was like, well, that settles that. I'm not getting through that area. I'll pick it up after the shows tonight. So it definitely does need some more patching, a little bit more optimization, but definitely hats off to Squanch Games. I mean, everybody's talking about this game. I had a guy run up to me at work and thank me for telling him about this game's existence. He put down Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 to check this game out on Game Pass, and he has thanked me because he's like, dude, this game is so different, and it feels like it was different enough for me to enjoy that I'm playing something completely different that I haven't seen in a while. And he's even playing it with, like, it's entertaining for somebody to sit next to you, not even playing the game, just to watch this crazy stuff take place in this game. I mean, if you haven't played it, it's in Game Pass. You got to check it out. Definitely don't blow this game off, because it was definitely one of those, it's going to be one of those gems of 2022.
Mm-hmm. I mean, again, there's some things that I kind of roll my eyes at in the dialogue, but overall,
Oh,
I think it's all right. But I'm just saying, like, overall though, there's a lot of things in the game that I'm really appreciating. Like, again, the textures are nice, character models, and so on. Even if it is like a
oh yeah.
cartoon world, the world is very engrossing. Again, I'm a big fan of color, in game worlds. Even like the soundtrack, the soundtrack's kind of mellow, but I don't know, I kind of like it personally.
The soundtrack can be very alien too. Like, I mean, they have like it almost like it's deliberately distorted to make it sound weird because it's an alien environment. You could go from a brown desert environment on one planet to like you were talking like Zephyr Zephyr, the one planet where it
Yeah.
literally is rivers of bright green slime and purple and pink trees, and I mean a lot of color. um Dude, we could go on about this all
Mm-hmm.
night. I mean, it definitely is a really great game for a developer to really kind of set the bar for their own developer to show like, hey, this is what we can create. It's also shown Microsoft that just because it's a game under the pretext of it being a very adult oriented game, can still be successful on Game Pass. The whole world doesn't have to revolve around these very, you know, publicly acceptable titles, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Right. I just love like again the little things that I appreciate. I mean, heck, Tammy and the T-Rex, that movie from the
Oh,
90s.
dude,
Holy crap, the full movie's on there.
there's more than just Tammy and the T-Rex on there. You can warp in a movie theater that has like a old school 80s B-rated horror movie. They even had like the beginning of vampire hookers on the television. You could definitely see that these guys have definitely put some cult classic B-rated movies stashed in the game. There's a lot of Easter eggs for sure.
Mm-hmm. No, I can.
I had to do a double take on Tammy and the T-Rex because when I walked by, I was like, holy shit, is that Paul Walker?
Well, I definitely knows Denise Richards, that's for sure. And
Well,
then I'm
no, of
like,
course, Denise Richards, that was a given, but that's what caught your eye at first was Denise Richards obviously doing the dance. But then all of a sudden you see this skinny ass blonde guy walking in with football equipment, and you're like, oh my God, is that Paul Walker?
yeah, yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna hit up somebody else on the panel now. I know you guys haven't had a chance to play it, but General MLD, buddy, I know you've been keeping up to date on this game. Seems like you're interested in it. I don't know. What's your take on High End Life? Have you seen the reactions to it on social media? And like, I don't know, what are you thinking of the reaction so far?
Well, I think it was said before. I think we're all a little blown away by just how much engagement this game is getting right now. It had a bit of a light marketing push, and I think we were all concerned about that. But the word of mouth is far and away, I think, the best asset this game has for marketing. Like gamers are just intrigued about it and telling each other about it. And the more I see it on social media, the more before I was on the fence, but now it's definitely a game I'm gonna try. Like right now, I'm playing Far Cry 6, but after that's done, I'm gonna go right into this game because I mean, first person shooters, that's my favorite genre. It's on Game Pass, so like, what do I have to lose? And it looks like I think the humor though is the biggest thing. If you don't like the humor, maybe the game won't be for you. But I actually do watch Rick and Morty. At first, maybe I'm thinking, would this be too much of a good thing? Like, I can watch Rick and Morty for half an hour, but for like a full 8-hour, 10-hour game, maybe that'd be a little bit too much. But from what I'm seeing online, it looks like it nails it almost perfectly. So if you're into that kind of humor, and I do like how the humor isn't as like strictly PC, should I say? Maybe that's why some reviewers are docking it a few points because the humor is so raw. And I also like that. Like personally, I think we should get more games like this that are just that have that kind of raw humor. So that's another pro for me. So yeah, I mean, happy to see it doing well, and it's a good way for Xbox to end the year on some kind of high note with exclusive content, even though it's timed. The fact that at least for whatever 2022 was to people, at least this is actually pretty positive for the brand and a good way to lead into 2023. So, but otherwise, the game looks great. Like it's kooky. It's unique. I'm on board now. Like, and I do like that. All this positive word of mouth is just really it's bringing in a lot of new people, including guys like myself that were on the fence. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun.
I think you'll really appreciate it. I mean, I didn't know that you were already a Rick and Morty fan, but I can tell you right now the mechanics are definitely there, and the world is, well, it's very interesting. Like, honestly, like, I sat down with it last night. I started it off. I wasn't intending to play all that much, and then an hour and a half went by, and I was just like, oh my god, I gotta go to bed, but I don't want to because it just kept sucking me in. So.
Nice. I also hear it's like a Metroidvania kind of thing.
A little bit,
Boy,
yeah.
That's perfect. I like those too. Like, it just makes me think of like Metroid Prime on the GameCube. Just going back to old areas with new equipment and just discovering a whole new part of it. I like that kind of stuff as well. So I'm really surprised at its Metacritic is so low. Like, would you in you guys in your opinions, would you say that's because of the humor isn't agreeing with the reviewers? Is that like the main reason?
I think that it's a little skewed numerically because there aren't a ton of reviews. There's only like 15 the last I checked. Maybe there are more now. And because of that, when you any number skews it more dramatically, because in a proper aggregate you have, with game reviews you have 50 to 60 normally in most large games, and there's only like 10 to 15 here, so like every single review holds more weight percentage wise.
Right.
And so there was like a 3 out of 10, and there might have been a 0 out of 10. I didn't see the 0 out of 10. I thought I'll have to check on that, but I know there was a 3 out of 10 on day one, and that skews it a lot because that's essentially a 30%.
Yeah, that seems a little biased, like in the wrong direction.
I don't. Honestly, I would put it at a like 75 to an 85, like somewhere in that range. Like, it's not God's gift to man in game form, right? Like, it's not that good. It's just very good and very funny. And honestly, a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of other games. But just because it's a breath of fresh air doesn't necessarily mean that it is something that should be critically acclaimed. Does that make sense? Because there's a weird thing with how reviewers review stuff versus what the common fan will think about stuff. We see that in movies all the time, right? Like, this movie has like a 90% reviewer score but like a 30% audience score, or the exact opposite. Like, it's not like solely in games.
Yeah, and to be fair, it does take like somebody said in the chat, it does take shots specifically at like Kotaku and a few other gaming websites.
So
really
maybe that's really funny.
Yeah, so maybe I shouldn't be too surprised with some of the scores.
I don't know. It didn't have a lot of day one reviews. It didn't seem like they gave many codes out, to be honest with you. Let me go to OpenCritic right now, and I just want to see how many things are on OpenCritic, because that aggregates both PC and console. Because
I feel like now that this game is just blowing up in terms of word of mouth, I think some reviewer sites should. I would think they would get on this game now, try and get some fresh traffic in.
So, I want to at least just point out, when it comes to like, this is why I don't like Metacritic, and I don't like how these game companies literally do game reviews. I understand that that it is a business, that a lot of people are sometimes stretched thin, especially a lot of games are being released, but it should always come down to finding the right person to do the review. Like, if the person enjoys watching horror movies like Wilmy Hood, you're not going to go have him go review a movie like an action like movie like The Matrix or something like that, and expect to get an objective opinion from somebody whose main preference is towards horror movies. And same with games. You need to find somebody who is a Rick and Morty fan, so that way they can base it off of the comedy from the television show, but also somebody that is also a comedic fan in general, somebody that could sit down and watch South Park, Rick and Morty, and is a big fan of like old school raunchy comedies that like National Lampoons. And like, it just feels like that, like a lot of the problem is they're handing this game to reviewers that would rather not be reviewing a game like this because they can't handle the humor. They almost feel like that they're it's basically this game is beneath them because of the humor and some of the plot lines. And that's where I just really feel this game is getting a very shitty end of the stick when it comes to reviewers, because of the fact that literally some of the reviewers that have been reviewing this game would rather go down the rabbit hole of this is just a problem. This is a problem with society. We shouldn't be accepting these kind of things. This game, has all these colorfuls and it's animated and it's going to attract children, and then children are going to play this crap. And it's like, dude, if you're a proper parent, growing up as a kid, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons, regardless of it being a damn cartoon, because it was an adult-oriented cartoon. I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons growing up as a kid until I was in freaking the 8th grade. So that's where I just kind of have to roll my eyes when you see reviews that want to somehow all of a sudden talk about how because of the cartoon nature of this game, it's somehow going to affect the children of this world because they're going to all want to play this game. And I'm well,
that sounds like a crutch to lean on to kind of validate their own personal views, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, because you're right. You're absolutely right. It is an issue with the parent sense, so don't act I
read one article that rather than talking about the game, it almost came off as a public service announcement on to keep little kids away from this game because of A, B, C, and D. Rather than talking about what the game offers as a video game, we're now going to go talk about how come this is basically just another product of a part of society that we don't want to talk about.
So I'm looking at the average scores on everything. I can't find a 0 out of 10 anywhere. I saw someone talking about that in chat. There's no official review that's a 0 out of 10. There are some user reviews that are 0 out of 10, but that always happens with user reviews. That's just how some people review. The lowest I can find from an official reviewer is the 3 out of 10. There's a bunch of 4 out of 10s as well. The average user score for the Series X version is an 8.2, and the PC version is a 7.7. So it's about in between that 8.5 and 7.5, where I said I would put it somewhere in there. It's good. It's just not. I wouldn't call it incredible. I wouldn't nominate this for Game of the Year. Does that make sense?
For sure.
I might do it for the fan, the player's choice of the year kind of thing, where it's more that one game that kind of just stood out, and that this game stands out. It's just not that jaw-dropping just piece of content that you'd be expecting.
It's a guilty pleasure game, pretty much.
Yeah, it is a guilty pleasure game. That is exactly the best way to describe it.
Question though, would you consider this a AA or AAA game?
I don't know. I hate labels, taxonomical labels like that.
If we had to, I'd say AA for sure, almost borderline AAA, because of once it's polished and optimized, dude, I mean, it's a good looking game. It has great mechanics to it. It's not oh, hey, we're just going to make an edgy game that's going to have all this humor to it for entertainment value. I mean, there is literally a good mechanical functioning game underneath there.
Yeah. Okay. If you were to force my hand, I'd probably say an indie AA. An independent developer had the funding of a AA studio.
Maybe something like the original Hellblade?
No, because that actually had a huge budget. That's more along the lines of what I would agree with. That's the Centurion line, where it's AA bordering on AAA. I would say that this is a little bit less than that.
I get what was it, Journey to the Savage Planet kind of size kind of vibes personally.
Yeah, if someone was to say, "Oh yeah, it's a AAA game," I wouldn't dispute them, right? I don't really want to argue or debate it. it's just not a small game. It's not a little like bite-sized game. It's a game. It's like a full game. So if you want to call it AA or AAA, I like.
But
I could see your point.
well,
you know what I mean? Like it's
the voice cast is definitely like, again, there's enough there that you
Yeah.
could be like, okay, you know what? There's like, I mean, there is a lot of like, I don't want to say polish per se, but like there's a lot there with the voice acting and whatnot. I think a lot of
Yeah.
that is on par.
they had a bunch of really good voice actors in it too. There's some spoilers later on. They got some famous people. Okay. But like that's becoming normal in gaming, which is really exciting. That like we get everything from like regular VAs to like famous people who want to come in and be in games, right? Like what was that game? It was a very controversial indie game, 12 Minutes.
Oh yeah.
That had like an all-star cast, which was
Oh, yeah.
wild.
William Dafoe.
It had,
That's
well,
right.
it had William Dafoe. It had the new Professor X from X-Men, James Avery.
Was it? And the girl from Star Wars, the new
And it
Star
had,
Wars.
yeah, the girl
game.
from Star
Daisy
Wars who played
Ridley,
Rey.
yeah.
Yep, I
Yeah.
forgot about her.
Yeah, like that game had like a wild cast, but like it's really hard to say how I'd classify this game, because typically AA, AAA is all based on like actual financial budgets and like your staff and stuff like that. And I don't know, I don't know enough about Squanch Games or how much went into making this game. I don't know how much Google threw at this game to begin with. I don't know how much Microsoft then later threw at the game. I don't know how much they invested into the game themselves. But it's big enough that if someone was to say AAA or AA, I don't go
Well,
crazy.
I'm pretty sure Roland, because of obviously being involved in the production of Rick and Morty, and he probably was very familiar with the concept of animation style voiceover, and he probably made connections with people who are very prominent figures in the voiceover community when it comes to actual voiceover for television. And I really feel like it translated well into this, because at times it felt like you're just watching a cartoon.
Also, some of the reviewers may have reviewed it slightly poorly because like it released before its day one patch did. I don't know if any of you heard about that.
Oh really?
I
Huh.
played it the night it came out. I played it at like 8 o'clock at night because it just became available on Game Pass. So I started playing it, and it didn't. Its frame rate was 60, but it had a rendering issue that made it look like its frame rate was not 60. It's really fascinating to like. I was listening to John Linneman talk about it from Digital Foundry, because he had this whole thing created about like it has a really weird rendering issue, and then they had a patch out the next morning.
Interesting.
And it fixed, because I almost put the game down because it was kind of almost nauseating to look at, because it was like it was 60 FPS, but it felt like it was 30, but it was 60, and like it just was really weird to look at, and it kind of made me motion sick, and it went away. And so like I didn't bring that up, but like it did have its day one patch launched after the game launched.
Yeah.
I think Xbox released it early on accident.
Maybe.
Yeah, they released it at like
8 o'clock at night.
it was like 8-10 o'clock at night for me, like the day before it was supposed to come out. So they did release it early.
Yeah.
But I think
Usually-
they've released what, 2 major patches now?
Yeah, they've released two. Yeah, at least 2. That first one launched the morning of, because I was talking how I was a little bit disappointed with my friends that there was a patch, and then they announced it like a few hours later, like, oh, we have a patch coming out tomorrow morning that'll fix the issues that people are complaining about, and everyone was like, oh, okay.
Interesting.
I
Interesting.
want to see the user reviews on Steam real quick before we move on.
Go for it.
I'm on the page.
Now, Shockley, buddy, I want to get your thoughts on High on Life. I know you haven't played it yet, but you sound pretty interested in it so far that you want to give it a shot sometime soon. What do you think about the reactions to it so far? I mean, it seems to be getting some pretty positive overall reactions, and as Crusader was going over the analytics of everything.
Yeah, I think once people get their hands on it, I mean, especially how popular. I mean, and you might not find the Rick and Morty humor kind of funny, or from that creator. So it could be totally hit or miss on people for sure. But that's definitely done well for itself with incorporating pop culture humor. So I mean, I'm definitely interested in getting it, especially some of the clips that people sent, like where they're making, that's the cool part, is that they're, know where to make fun of themselves to, they know they're not like a AAA game. They know, hey, this might not be in their budget. Okay, this is what we had to work with. And then so they're like, criticizing themselves, like with, saying, hey, Kotaku, this is or IGN, critiquing themselves. And then some of the other humor where the weapons are talking to each other, where I saw somebody like stab somebody and then the knife is like going at it. I found that pretty funny. So it's like a lot of people I saw some of those clips and they were like even more intrigued. So I think it's kind of like that, word of mouth of like, because you didn't know what to expect from it, from like some of the first clips that you saw at like Xbox's showcase, because it just seemed like some of the humor wasn't coming across in those clips, maybe because obviously they probably had to be more like PG in those clips.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the clips going on Twitter, you're getting even more humor that you didn't get in the initial like trailers. So some people are like, oh, okay, it goes that hard, okay. So I think it's just gonna be definitely big word of mouth. I don't know why they didn't send out review codes to more. That part was weird, because I mean, even if it's like bad, like people are gonna find out if it's like good or bad. So I don't understand the like, hey, there's only 3 reviews or 5 reviews here, so people are trying to figure out like anything about it, because it's, and especially because there was no, you go that route of like not having the review codes, but you also had like people forgot this game was even releasing. So I don't know why they weren't promoting it hard for Game Pass. Like a lot of times they'll do, like they'll, promoting the shit out of a game's about to drop in Game Pass. Although lately that has, I guess, not been the case, because I feel like this happened with what was that game with the fox that was kind of like Zelda?
Tunic.
I feel like it kind of had the same treatment, where it was just like it kind of not shadow drop, but it was like the weeks leading up to it.
I don't know that anyone thought this game was going to be this popular.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was going to be this popular. I thought it would be popular, but I ain't going to do these kind of numbers.
Yeah,
it was hard to
that's
say.
The thing with Game Pass, people like saw some of that humor, they're like, "Oh shit, let me try that out," because that looks. I think the humor kind of grabs them in more than say like a Tunic would. They might see like, oh, okay, this artsy looking game, I don't know if I want to touch that, but that humor, that part was funny. Let me try that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was hard to say, like you said, like with the initial impressions of the game, but as time went on, we saw some more around late August, September. There was like a little bit of a blowout for the game, and the only thing I've been surprised with how mum Xbox was with marketing it, because I mean, there's been a lot of good word of mouth because of people playing it the past few days, but I mean, Xbox is marketing themselves. You think they'd be a little more open and trumpeting this game over the like a week before it came out? That's what we were just kind of scratching our heads about. But...
Well, I think the guys mentioned it before. It's the same reason why Phil Spencer will always want to change the subject when when Conker's Bad Fur Day is brought up. I think it's that kind of humor that it's not very executive friendly to get into. Maybe, I don't know.
I'm with General on that statement. That I feel like that's probably one of the reasons why Xbox is like, if you guys want to market the game, you deal with that, because like, what if people don't like? I mean, let's be frank. Every company in America right now is scared to death of cancel culture.
Yeah, but then they have rare replay anyway.
The next one, at least, they have to.
They literally sell 2 Conquer Bad Fur Days like on their store. Like they sell they went even in did the backwards compatibility for the remake after they already released rare replay. I don't know. It just
well, they can do it, but
they just promoted this game, didn't they? Like, kind of help cater this. I mean, they gave this game a bag, but didn't they? Their Xbox studios trying to help, like, get them to port it over to Xbox after they got all their, shit shut down at Stadia. So it's like they're kind of putting a promotion here of like, hey, we do endorse this humor, so like you might as well.
I don't know why everybody like wants to criticize a game for having this humor or having some of the, you know, just the off-putting dark humor or the sexual comments when literally like how many copies of Grand Theft Auto 5 have been sold, a game that literally, you know, you go buy a hooker and hang down an alleyway and you can go run amok and actually, you know, rampage on the streets and just shoot innocent people for kicks and giggles. We've got Call of Duty, where literally the whole concept of Call of Duty is killing human beings. And for some reason, this game is very considered like counterculture, you know, like this is bad for society. And it's like, dude, I accidentally shot an innocent person in this game and the gun bitched me out for it. That doesn't happen in Call of Duty or in freaking Grand Theft Auto. Like somebody doesn't walk up and be like, dude, you're a freaking monster. What the F is your problem? Kenny told me that when I accidentally shot somebody.
Yeah, and I wanted to shoot like the little furry things on Zephyr, but he wouldn't let me. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Right?
Game has 90% on Steam reviews.
Oh, that's...
With over 2,000, almost 2,400 reviews.
Damn, that's pretty impressive in
So
my
it's
book.
highly positive, or very positive is the term that Steam uses.
Well,
Yeah, really polarizing between that and the media reviews. Like, really interesting.
As someone who follows media reviews for like almost every movie that launches, it's really not shocking. That's just how a lot of stuff that's common with people is not critically reviewed well, because there's really a difference in like what the point of a critic review is versus an end user's opinion's going to be on it. Now you can say maybe the critic should be more like the end user. I personally believe that myself, but there's a different they treat stuff differently. And it happens in TV, film as like just as much as it happens in games.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Crusader. I honestly do. It's just kind of baffling. I mean, this isn't the first time in recent memory that we've seen such a gap between user reviews and like game journalist reviews.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, I don't know. The
reverse is usually more common in gaming.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, that's true.
The reverse is usually more common in gaming. And in TV film, it's usually the opposite. It's usually that it's usually this case. It's not usually that critics review something well and fans don't. In games, it seems to be the opposite of TV film, but it happens a lot. And it happens to be the personalities of the critics versus the average personality of your average user. That's how it happens everywhere, in everything.
All right.
Because your personality determines how you're going to review, and you have to be someone who wants to review stuff to get a job as like if you're going to take a job as a reviewer, you obviously want to review the stuff, and typically those types of people all have similar sentiments because they're educated similarly. They usually share similar views. That's just how it pans out. It's fascinating to study like these microcosms and stuff. I did it for a little bit in one of my math courses. Not this in particular, mind you, but like something similar to this, where you'll typically like college professors will all act similarly for the most part on average, because they're all educated in the same way and stuff like that, and they all have they shared the same views on how education works and stuff like that, even though the common person might not be educated properly that way. It's a very interesting subject. Very boring
though. In some ways, but very interesting nonetheless. Guys, we'll round this one up. Any other comments on High on Life before we move on? Yes, no? All right, we'll move on. But High on Life, like, I'll be playing it throughout this week. I've got a lot more time on my hands right now, I've definitely opened up a bit more, so I want to go through this one. It has me intrigued. It's sucking me in, and I can't wait to dive into it more. It's very the world is very engrossing, to say the least. Guys in the chat and everyone tuning in, if you're enjoying the show, then hey, remember to hit that like button and share this out. As hey, we would love to have more people here joining us and to see more comments in the chat. Yeah, because we love to see every little thing you guys type there. Okay, moving on to some other bits of news, fellas, and we sort of touched on this a bit on the last show. There seems to be rumors building up of Xbox hosting their own like show or event early in the new year to get the ball rolling on hyping up games that, well, basically we know that are coming in 2023. Various people in media are hearing things such as Windows Central's Jez Corden. There's been a few others I've noticed. But anyways, Eric Shockley, buddy, my very astute friend, what do you make of these rumors? What do you think the likelihood is of Xbox hosting like something early in the new year?
Yeah, I mean, there was that I guess message or tweet that they had about, stay tuned, there's going to be news, very soon. Now, I don't know what hopefully soon they mean before E3 or just, saying like later sometime, you won't have to wait too long. So hopefully there's something in January. Maybe that's why they were holding out, or there is all that talk of like they were holding out, not showing anything because of the Activision deal that was going through and how they're getting pressed pretty hard with the FTC looming. But then again, Sony, but they're, they showed off some stuff too. So, and they had, obviously their games there at the awards. So I don't think that would be the case because even if they showed off anything, it would be probably stuff that's like further out, probably stuff that's not. Because people were expecting like, hey, you should have showed off Starfield and Redfall. They're supposed to be coming out this year. If you didn't show it off, like, are these games coming out? I'm like, recently we've gotten footage from like Redfall, like I think a couple different times. Maybe they need to show off more in Starfield, but that's probably still later, probably later in the year would be my guess, unless
Be in the first half.
Okay.
Well, everything from the June showcase that was first party is supposed to be in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I mean, I don't think they would be showing that stuff just yet. They probably want to wait where it's like closer to release because they've already showed like kind of the pre stuff that was like probably like mid development with some of the last showings that we probably saw from Redfall, and probably now in between that gap and the gap, where it's almost fully polished, they probably want to wait probably closer to the event. Plus you're going to hype up the game with like maybe like the month or weeks leading in to it releasing, so that might make more sense to hold off and show off something that's going to come out later, like maybe in the next year and a half, 2 years. I could see them showing that off at this past award show and that not really affecting the whole FTC thing, because it's not like, hey, look, we have 6 different big AAA games coming out this year. So unless they just didn't have anything that was going to fit that build, but yeah, I mean, as far as the sorry, my bad, just lost it. I was trying to pull up that link again. I had it right there. My bad. My bad. Oh, as far as them being too quiet, I think they kind of set themselves up for that. As far as like on this one, because the past one they've been always announcing at least something. It's never been like something really big, except for like their first big announcement. They did show off that gameplay, but it was very limited for Hellblade. So I mean, as game wise, they haven't really had like huge things other than just saying, hey, this game's starting in development, it's coming. And then there was just like the very sliver of gameplay we saw for Hellblade 2. But it's just exacerbated because they don't have any games. So, if Sony didn't show up with Death Stranding here to show up, for their announcement and Horizon Forbidden West, gameplay or expansion, they don't have to show up for that because they nailed it this year. So they have game. So I think that's where people are more upset as far as them not showing up at the Game Awards with something, because they thought, hey, well, you didn't release anything this past year. At least you'll give us like, some big announcement for a game, and at least like, get us excited about that. So when they were just kind of absent, I think that's what kind of like rubbed people the wrong way. And then that's where you had like Ryan McCaffrey and other people writing articles like, this is, disgrace, is terrible. But hopefully they got something coming soon. Hopefully if both those games hit in this first half, like that's what people are asking for, is like, is this going to be the turnaround? Because we thought that the turnaround was going to start with Halo Infinite. Like, okay, here from out from this point on, we're good. And then that ended up not being the case. It ended up being a complete donut this year. So now people are saying, okay, is this it? Or are we just going to be like, say these kind of games do release in the first half, is it just going to be completely nothing until the fall of 2024 before we see another AAA game? So that's it. There's optimism, but people are also looking at like, well, it's that whole waiting thing, and unfortunately when you abandon actually investing, Microsoft got involved in the whole console ring, and then they just kind of were there for the wrong for the wrong reasons. They didn't really want to be in there. Probably half the execs probably didn't actually care about Xbox, in the whole gaming space, other than just to be a thorn in, Sony's side in the entertainment market in the living room. And then they started like, oh wait, now we could actually make a lot of business, a lot of money. This is where a lot of entertainment is actually going. But then it's kind of a little too late. At this point, you have to catch up. You do have to buy big studios. Otherwise, by the time you actually develop and catch up, it's going to be, late into this next decade. You're going to be so far behind in console sales. You're going to have to, lose even more money trying to subsidize, hardware in the console market, and having low sales like Xbox One sales, and to actually sustain until you actually get and build it up, the right organic way. So it is what it is. That's why you could have done it during the 360 era. You didn't. Now it's 10 times harder. So but we'll see how hopefully they turn around this year, and those they do have something early in this upcoming year to get us excited, but we'll see. Otherwise, every month it's just gonna get worse and worse for them as far as like, when's this announcement? When's this show? Because you're already having rumors, and then people get hyped up about these rumors, and then they just turn out to be nothing. Don't actually hit. So
well, that's the thing. They haven't shot them down either, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't think they'll usually just let it ride out, and then sometimes it ends up being like, oh, we thought this was gonna happen. Well, you didn't say anything. Well, we didn't say there was anything, but we'll see.
Kinda, I don't know. He said that we wouldn't have to wait long for news. That's when people are already complaining
3 months?
when people are already complaining about stuff, and he says we don't have to wait long. That's his own damn fault if he didn't set the expectations properly as one of the heads of marketing. Like, I don't know how to I don't know how to say that any differently. Like if they start questioning why we were hoping for something in January, they're crazy. They're crazy.
You said don't wait long. But
We said we don't have to wait long after not showing up to the most viewed gaming event of the year.
Yeah. All right.
As Brap likes to say, that's not quantifiable.
Yeah.
Just saw some Brap's tweets. But yeah, we can't quantify what does don't wait long mean, because at least in your history, we don't know. But
well,
don't say that. At least give us a date. Say like spring, or at least we have an idea of a window. Wait long means like, oh, it's probably next month, and it's probably not next month. It's probably March, or if there even is a thing. Who knows?
Yeah, it's kind of open to interpretation at this point. Again, they're very quiet at the moment, not divulging very much. MLD, what do you think about, I don't want to say radio silence per se from Xbox, but I guess a lot of people, were wanting to hear something. And some media folk, they've seemed to be hearing chattering behind the scenes of something. Do you believe that we'll be getting some kind of a show, hopefully, to, showcase these upcoming games, like, hopefully, January, February, something like that? Do you see something like that? Do you believe the rumors from what we've been seeing?
Oh yeah, I do believe we'll see something relatively soon. I doubt January. If I had to bet, I would say February, because I feel like Redfall should hit somewhere in Q1. So let's just say for the latest possible date, that will be March 30th or whatever, right? You would have to kind of announce that and start a marketing push at least a month in advance, kind of like how Ghostwire Tokyo, that was given like kind of a last minute marketing push when it was time exclusive on PlayStation. So that's my thing there. As far as the Game Awards thing absence goes, I mean, what's done is done. You can't change it, but whatever reasons they had, I think we can all agree it was a missed opportunity. And at least, Aaron Greenberg, Xbox, they could read the room. They see how we were disappointed and wanted more. So I think they know they're on the last. The fans are on the kind of like the last bits, the last straw of patience here. Like 2023 is do or die essentially, and I get it. They kind of maybe have to maintain a certain image for the regulators, but at the same time though, you're running out of goodwill even from your biggest fans as well. All we need is just something simple, like just do something that won't make your regulators like give them ammo. Like maybe just give release dates for Redfall, Minecraft Legends, Ghostwire Tokyo for Xbox. Let's see, they already have Age of Empires 2. Maybe GoldenEye, that was supposed to be given to us this year. That's nowhere in sight, so maybe give us a release date for that. At least things that are going to be releasing at least in the next few months. I'm sure Starfield, that will be its own event. Todd Howard, he likes to make a spectacle of it. He wants to have a full length video to talk about it and walk us through it. So I feel like that will be its own event. So I mean, there's that. Yeah, I mean, I think they can't wait too long. I feel like March will be too late. They gotta start at least just giving us release dates of what is coming, and I think they know that. So I'm optimistic. I think 2023 is going to be a great year, and it's just a matter of time. This year's almost up anyway. This year's largely a wash. I mean, we got high on life. People are having fun with that. Let's just put everything in 2023 and make that like one of the best years Xbox has ever had. We'll look back on 2022 and just laugh after if 2023 is just nailed perfectly. So, yeah, I'm hoping for the best.
All right. No, that's
Didn't they
fair.
say coming soon on GoldenEye? And we still
Yeah.
never saw anything about it.
They said it would be by the end of 2022, and it didn't happen.
Yeah. Soon as they
On
said.
a already made game from 30 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah, that's well. Again, maybe that gives more credence to they're holding stuff back for their own little event, show, whatever it may be. You never know. So.
Oh, and there's one thing I saw on Twitter.
Nintendo's going to announce when that one's coming. Honestly, because they own part of the rights to it, which is why it hasn't happened like years past. So like that's a weird flux of like it'll come when both Xbox and Nintendo are ready to do that. I actually don't think GoldenEye will be at whatever event they have.
Well, also I came across this on Twitter actually. Have you guys seen that some executive on Xbox or whatever, they were saying how like they finished building a studio.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that when I go MLD. It's not a game studio. It's a production studio.
No, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Like for like an inside Xbox kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Yes, that's what we think it's for. Like they didn't expressly say anything. The guy quickly deleted his tweet.
Interesting. Okay.
But there is a thread up for it on r/gaming leaks and rumors. That they do have a production studio for filming stuff now, evidently.
Interesting. I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah, I could put the link to the thread in the Discord
All right, that'd be good.
Yeah,
because it has screenshots of the original tweet.
Because I think people have been saying a lot that Xbox should kind of do a state of play / Nintendo Direct kind of approach, and not only rely on these big events in the year, just to give gamers a little less waiting time in between, even if it's only like 20-minute stuff, like multiplats or the odd exclusive, things like that. Yeah, I mean, if the rumors are true, then they're finally listening, and I wouldn't mind that kind of format to bring back Inside Xbox, but make the format just better, like, and give people notice as to what to expect. I think it could really work.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Maybe the wait soon is the whole woe long, because I see that's coming out early, first week of March. So they're going to probably hype that up. And that's our news. You don't have to wait soon. I mean, I'm hyped about that game coming to Game Pass, but that could be what he means. I'm just thinking low expectations.
Well,
I know
Age of Empires 2 is January.
Yes.
Age of Empires 2 is January 31st. It is the only Xbox first-party game that has an official date.
You know what? January saved. Persona 4 Golden's coming next month.
And 3.
You know what? We're good.
And
Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter's coming
Monster
next month,
Hunter,
too.
yeah.
That should be good.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
The third-party offerings that have dates throughout the year that are announced for Game Pass, they're going to be solid and they are listed. Like, that's not even a problem. Like,
Yeah.
I legitimately don't need this event for them to show me the third parties that are coming. They have dates. They're coming. That's fine. I want another first-party shit.
Does Atomic Heart have a release date, or is it just February?
It's late February. Like, I think it's like February 18th or something. Like
Yeah,
that.
21st.
Okay.
Yeah, the need for an actual show from Microsoft is nothing to do with like even Game Pass itself. We have plenty of dates for shit that's coming in literally the first 3 months. It's literally just their first-party games.
Yeah, that's literally
That's it.
Because there's just a giant question mark on a whole bunch of those studios and their games. So
yeah,
and it would be nice to have some answers. That's all. Centurion Pal, I mean, what do you think? We've been hearing rumblings of a little show or just something's in the works. It's interesting with Crusader and MLD mentioning them working on something production related. Like, what do you think could be going on here? Do you think they're holding stuff back for a possible show, an event, whatever it may be? What are your thoughts on all these rumblings?
Man, you see, this is where I get torn. I'm obviously an Xbox fan, but I'm also a business person. As an Xbox fan, it really sucked this year watching the Game Awards that didn't have really anything when it came to Microsoft's first-party offerings. I mean, yeah, they have been real quiet on these games being, when are they actually going to come out? Where's some good, serious gameplay? And as much as, people don't want to admit it, that's where, I can at least accept if Microsoft Phil Spencer called me up right now and said we had to do it because of the FTC thing, I would understandably be like, okay, I understand that. But now let's talk about the other half of the business equation. You're creating a marketing nightmare right now.
Yep.
You have completely alienated the fan base of your first part, like the people that walk around proud to be wearing an Xbox shirt because that is where they have built their digital libraries. That is where they put a lot of time into their gaming. Even as a multi-console gamer, I own different versions of the PlayStation running around here. And I'm not basically at this point, I'm entrenched in the Xbox ecosystem. I'm not going anywhere. I own like 500 freaking games on that library. You're just not going to walk away from that. But let's talk about you have made leaps and bounds in getting people to want to invest into the ecosystem, especially after the debacle with Xbox One and how PlayStation literally captured a large amount of mind share, especially with people that I'm not going to use as the term casual, but your average gaming consumer, somebody that's not constantly reading the articles, listening to the podcasts. They're not like entrenched. It's for them, wearing a game related shirt means nothing to them other than it's a shirt for a game they like. But like, so this is where I hope they do a show to really start getting some drive back in the fans that really are Xbox fans, but they're not entrenched. They don't have these huge digital libraries. I mean, the ones that literally just went out and bought a Game Pass machine, and they're going to associate Xbox for just being a good place to go to get third-party content. And whether people, because I already see what's going on in the chat, whether people want to admit it or not, Spider-Man 2 was in okay, so if you listen to people like ACG and other predominant members of the gaming community that basically flat out tell you that if you're going to discount PlayStation because it's a PlayStation, you don't belong in the conversation, because you're excluding yourself, because you basically think that the brand has nothing to offer when it's absolute crap. Insomniac Games is a completely badass developer.
Yep.
They have done amazing things with their game engine when it comes to stuff like ray tracing and how those games function. They put other developers to shame when it comes to polish, optimization, and what's going on in the background of that game. So literally, I mean, if you are wanting to make a comic book character based game like Marvel games, Insomniac is like the bar for that game. And the fact that they come out and say fall of 2023 for Spider-Man 2, well, here's the funny part. Sony Santa Monica, to me, in my mind, does not have the same pedigree as Insomniac games. I honestly thought for a chance that God of War Ragnarok was going to be delayed due to the fact that there was very little content released for that game other than we saw gameplay like literally a month or two before that game came out. They really kind of like I was questioning whether that game was going to come out on time. For me, if Insomniac Games comes out and says fall of 2023, come hell or high water, that game is coming out fall of 2023. Huh?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm echoing you quietly.
No, and that's where it comes down to. Right now, that's a blockbuster game. That puts Sony always at number one because they have these blockbuster titles. So unless Microsoft is completely complicit with being third place by their own words, they need to keep at the motion they're going now, where they are very hush. It's regrettable that this FTC thing is going to blow up bigger than even bigger than I thought it could blow up. I mean, there was a part of me that thought it could be blocked, but I didn't think that freaking it was going to turn into a complete, soap opera with other, with Sony over here and how they're doing it. But it basically at this point, Microsoft is going to have to really calculate, do we try to save our $69 billion deal at the risk of alienating an emerging fan base for the Xbox by basically making them think that the only thing that we're going to have is some third-party games that are going to pop up? I mean, like, literally, let's take a look at High on Life. A lot of people are talking about that. They're very happy that that's a Game Pass game, and it's technically a timed exclusive, but that's not first-party studio. Atomic Heart with Munfish and Focus, still third-party game, not first-party studio. It's basically going to be that, well, if you want those blockbuster first-party studio titles, PlayStation is the place to be, and Microsoft is not going to change that narrative with the route that they're going right now. This is why I'm saying it's a marketing nightmare. And yes, it is stretching fans a little thin, because I mean, literally, a lot of people for a very long time have always wait till E3, wait till this, wait. For me, I have games to play. I'm not the one that sits there and say, oh, I gotta wait. I mean, I literally just got Star Ocean. Hell, I just bought freaking Saints Row, the new one that everybody seems to not like. For me, I'm going to play games whether or not I'm entrenched in the ecosystem I want to be in. But to keep growing the ecosystem and to keep generating a revenue and get people investing in the ecosystem, new players, Microsoft needs to do something, because literally right now, mindshare is still on Sony's side when it comes to first-party studios getting the job done.
Mm-hmm. No, well said there, Centurion. Honestly, I agree. I mean, Xbox certainly has. I mean, when they bought the studios and publishers that they did, like again, Bethesda, ZeniMax, and so on, and plus, you know, they did.
Really, no, that's a good point. You they have spent a lot of money on studios since 2016, and we really have not seen what that's going to exactly get us. And I know games take time, but like average game development, like correct me if I'm wrong, is like what, 5-6 years?
It depends on
Yeah.
the
And I mean
studio,
like
but
average. I'm
4 to
not
5,
talking
I'd
like
say.
Red Dead Redemption 2
yeah,
shit.
well, all right. If we're not including Red Dead Redemption 2 shit, it's 3 to 5.
See, I mean, they have owned these studios long enough to at least show us that they can do something. And I feel like I am confused on why Starfield has been delayed as much as it has been. I understand COVID happened, but it's like, dude, they were working on Starfield before COVID even happened.
They gave
I'm
us a
not.
date during COVID. That's the big kicker for me.
What?
They gave us a date for it during COVID.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying it's really creating a marketing nightmare, because you're setting a consumer precedence on what they're going to mentally kind of like evaluate in their own minds towards this brand. And yes, right now, Game Pass is the best value in gaming, hands down. High on Life proves that. But you can only ride that horse for so long before you're going to need to have another pony in the circus to show a trick.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair. But again, there are signs that things could be changing course. Again, like it's not like a doom and gloom thing. It's just, hey guys, you know, we want to see some gameplay for things. Like, you know, I see some stuff in the chat, and it's like, guys, don't worry. It's not like a doom and gloom comment. It's just, you know,
it's just annoying.
We just want to see some stuff now. That's all it is.
So no, for me, the reason why I say as a business person is I handle the marketing for the company. I do, man of many hats at where I work. I built their marketing department. I have to sit there and answer the reviews for pissed off customers, and these reviews are on Google. This is a customer's, like, if somebody reads these reviews before they show up at the business, these reviews will actually set the mind share that person is going to have when they walk through the front door. So if basically the customer thinks that everybody at that job is an a-hole, they're going to come in reserved and almost defensive because they're just waiting for the a-holes to show up. And that's why mind share is a big deal. And Microsoft right now, regretfully, does not have a very positive mind share when it comes to the results of their first party studios.
Now, speaking of first party studios, there was a bit of news. I think it got lost a couple of weeks ago, but it did pop up again. It was about Fable, actually. Fable's engine, like the engine that Playground Games is using. Apparently, they were having issues with it, something like that. Like it's kind of like, I mean, it would be nice to hear something about Fable, because Fable got announced back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, at their E3 showcase. It's I don't know, it just like, it is just kind of odd that we haven't seen anything from it. Like, Crusader, you might like know a little more on this. Do you think like do you see like any issues popping up with their own like, because it seems to be like from what the articles was saying, that Microsoft really wants these studios to use their proprietary engine instead of like stuff like Unreal and whatnot. Like, should we be worried about anything with Fable right now?
I wouldn't, only because that's a really mixed bag. Personally, I wouldn't be worried about anything with Fable. I don't think it's close enough to release to matter. I'm pretty sure that game was internally slated for 2024, like even before. Yeah, no, I'm not worried about. I'm not even thinking about Fable, right? Because there's so much stuff that's supposed to come sooner that has been told to us that it's gonna come sooner, and then there's stuff that hasn't been directly told to us, but I've seen documents that have uh that showed the timeline, the timelines, and there's stuff that was at least internally slated like 2-3 years ago at this point that's supposed to come out even sooner than that, anyways. So I'm not concerned about Fable's development process at all, because that's not an issue to me. Also, I don't know how true it is that Microsoft might have those kind of things for certain studios, but there are certain studios that just use Unreal for everything. So I don't know that as a Xbox Game Studios wide thing that's even a concern to think about, because it seems like studios can use basically whatever they want, or at least most of them can. I know that for the studios that were like Xbox studios before 2018, or were working very closely with Xbox before 2018, so like Playground and maybe one other, they have they're treated slightly differently, because they're treated almost like proper Microsoft companies. So like that's why like 343 had I don't know that they have it anymore, but they had that rule with the contractors that matched Microsoft's contracting rules, where you can only work for a year, then you have to take a year off, and then you can work for them a year again. So I don't think I don't think it's an at-large issue. The only thing that I see is it could have slowed Fable's development down. And this isn't just. A lot of people are like, oh, it's Playground Studios and it's Fable. Well, number one, the Fable IP went downhill with 3. Like 3 was not as popular as 2. That's just a fact. And then Peter Molyneux like almost destroyed that franchise. Luckily, Fable Legends never launched. I think that would have actually damaged that IP.
Well,
if
to be
launched.
fair,
Yeah, I think he was gone by then.
to be
He
fair,
was
like
gone by then?
Phil Harrison,
Yeah, he left, and
Phil Harrison.
Phil
was the
Harrison
one
and
behind that.
and a
Okay.
bunch of
that
studio
it
like
makes even more sense.
yeah, they had a lot of input with where the direction of
Um,
that game was going.
And
it's like
so,
going on with Kojima Productions without Kojima. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
really the same.
So Fable was already on a downwards path. Not that it was going to be destroyed or anything. Luckily, that game never came out, and that's fine. And Playground, this isn't Playground Studios, the studio that made Forza. This is a new studio location that is making Fable. It's literally next door to the old studio location, but it is another building with another studio, with another new set of studios, new hires that are in it. A couple of veterans from the original Playground studio went over and essentially created it. But I believe that Fable is in safe hands, and it will be fine. I just think that there is that likely there are some growing pains, because this is functionally a new studio that is making it. It shares the name of with another studio, but that studio isn't directly creating it. It is a function. It's like Arcane Austin versus Arcane Lyon. They are separate studios. They assist each other from time to time, but they have different creative leads, different developers that work on it. And so this is a functionally new studio at Playground doing this. And I think the only concern should be how long is that game going to take to come out, not is that game going to come out good or bad. Does that make sense? I have zero concerns that
I agree.
That game's going to be fine. And I have things that I am far more excited about that are coming out, and that's like I didn't give my full input on the show thing. I think that if they're going to do these 12-month shows like they did with E3, if that's going to be their plan moving forward, they need to have 2 of them a year. So doing it in January and June makes sense, right? The approximately 6 months apart. Technically, it's only like 5-ish. But, realistically, you're 6 months apart. You can cover the first half of the year and then be like, this is what's going to come out in the second half of the year. And then in that second show, you can be like, all right, this is the second half of the year. This will be the first half of next year, right? And you can kind of do it in like a loop almost. Because we're at the point where there are games coming out in the next 6 months that we just haven't seen anything for, and that's really pre-COVID. That's a foreign concept. Post-COVID, it's not quite as foreign a concept, But like pre-COVID, that's a foreign concept to people. Like we would have seen a lot of stuff already.
Mm-hmm.
And so and and they've had a bunch of other showings. They were at Tokyo Game Show, but they didn't really show any of their own content at Tokyo Game Show. They showed off a bunch of third-party stuff that they got to come to Xbox. They were at Gamescom, but all of the trailers were literally the same trailers as the E3 showcase. So they really need to do 2 major showcases a year. An EXO, whether it's in December or January, I don't give a shit. Just do an EXO at that time of year, and do the E3, and do the direct styles for like when the game is launching. You're a month away. Do the Nintendo Direct or Sony PlayStation State of Play style thing that's like right before the game comes out. You do like an in-depth like 20-minute thing. I think that they would have a great marketing scheme, and maybe that's what we're moving towards, right? But they had such a shite year that it feels bad as a fan, right? And then you hear, I think stuff like the Forza concerns, Jez brought them up because I think Jez was trying to bury that story slightly within the other story that was the bigger story, because the reporting on Forza was in, correct me if I'm wrong, it was in Jez's I'm disappointed they weren't at the, like, where is Xbox right now, right? That was in that article, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Something, yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the Microsoft has, by essentially delaying all of their content, all of their major content at the very least, out of 2022. They had some minor content, but they delayed all of their major content out of 2022. The delays themselves aren't the problem. It's in delaying both of those games, what you left the rest of the year with is the problem, and that has created concern, and has created, you've been promising us consistency. Where's the consistency? Where are the releases? You bought all these things. Where's the content? You've made us excited, but now we're losing that excitement because you haven't delivered on all of the fantastic things you've announced. And that comes as part of a problem with them also announcing a ton of games a fuck ton early, right? They announced like Avowed super early. They announced Contraband super early. They announced Fable super early, Hellblade super early, the spy game, the first person Perfect Dark super early, right? And now we're just kind of stuck in this, okay, you announced all these things, and then you gave us all of this, you gave us this great roadmap of 2023, the first quarter with no dates, and it's been 6 months and we still don't have dates, and we're getting real close to when those things should be launching. We have one for Age of Empires 2, but nothing else. So like, should we be concerned that the consistency still isn't going to be happening yet or not? I think it'll be fine, personally, but that doesn't make me any less frustrated with the situation. Like, if every last thing that they promised launches in 2023, I'm still going to stand by being frustrated right now in 2022, because they didn't give me any kind of assurances that this stuff is still happening. It's been 6 months since the last, like, real showing. They were at Gamescom in August, but they showed the same shit with the same message at Gamescom, and they showed a little bit more off of Pentiment and stuff. That stuff's come, and it's here. Where is the actual meat, right? Because I can live off of my backlog for a while. I can live off of indie releases for a while, but that doesn't mean I don't have a fundamental desire for a huge AAA release, right? And so it's just that people, a lot of the concerns about things will fade, about any individual title will fade away when the consistency happens. This concern about Fable will die when the consistency happens. It's just we're not there yet, and that's why it's really frustrating. We are just not there yet. And PlayStation can be coy about everything because they've been consistent since the period where they weren't consistent and they couldn't be coy about things and they had to keep showing the same shit over and over again. And they were in this same situation back until 2016, right? Between the years of 2014 and 2016, PlayStation, I mean, they had releases, but it was a pretty barren wasteland of nothing but Bloodborne until they launched, I think the first one was the Uncharted 4, right? They were in a similar situation, but they had years of consistent, like the inconsistency didn't go quite as long, and they had a little bit more within there. But they were in the same situation of they kept showing the same shit at every showcase for years and years and years, and then they finally hit a launch of consistency, and then they could delay a couple of games that they had promised for a couple years because they had shit coming out, and then they delayed stuff into the next year, and like this year was almost all
Right.
delayed titles from PlayStation, but it didn't matter
Mhm.
because it was still rather consistent launches. So was last year. I mean, they had a slight hiccup where like they had a few months without a title, but even that was covered up mostly by timed exclusives.
Mhm.
And so there needs to be this level of consistency. That is Microsoft's biggest problem right now, and that like, runs into the marketing nightmare thing from Centurion. And no, the sky's not falling. It's just frustrating as hell because right now I actually don't know if any of the promises Microsoft made in June are going to be kept. Right? I don't. They haven't been consistent with keeping promises well in the last year and a half, and it's not that the sky is falling, it's just that like there is reason for concern. They don't have the track record to back up their words yet. Once they have the track record to back up their words yet, a delay or two won't matter because as long as they're hitting most of their content, it's fine. But they didn't hit most of their content this year, and they didn't hit most of their content the year before, and the year before that they also didn't hit most of their content. Like 2020, 2021 really weren't, like 2021 was good overall, but I mean there was a half the year that was awful, right? It was only the second half that was good. And honestly, this year on Game Pass has been very good, but really most of it was September onwards.
Right.
And so I would like to see more consistency in everything, right? And your concerns over the Fable engine, is it a problem? Go away, because it won't matter.
Mhm.
You're like all the concerns fade away, and so I really hope they have this January showcase so that the concerns can start to fade away and they give us some dates or some months. I don't need to know that X game is coming out on this exact date at this exact hour, right? But go ahead and tell me that this game's coming out in this month. I don't want to hear no quarters. I don't want to hear no unless it's later in the year. I like if it's coming out in the first 6 months of the year, I want to hear it's coming out in May. I want to hear it's coming out in April. Right? If it's coming out like in September, October, November, right? You can tell me fall. That's fine. But if it's coming out in the next 6 months and there's 7 titles that they're supposed to be releasing in the next 6 months, I want to know when they're coming out, right? I'm putting my foot down. I'm tired of kind of being knee-jerked around.
Now, anybody else want to add on to what Crusader's been touching on with regards to the Fable engine? Like any concerns here from the? I mean, I'm not really concerned myself because Playground, even though this is a new studio attached to Playground, like there's been a lot of veteran devs going over there, especially from like Lionhead. I remember way back when. I'm not too concerned personally, but I just find that these articles popping up are kind of interesting. But I'm not too worried right now. Like I gotta see the gameplay first, personally. What do you guys think? Anybody want to comment? Yes, no?
Yeah, I'll go.
All right, yeah, you go first, General.
Oh yeah, I just want to say like, I think most of the concern comes from Forza Tech being it's an engine, relegated to just the studio. So any contractors coming in, they got to learn it, and that will add naturally some time to the game. But it's not doom and gloom, far from it. It's just a bit of a hill to climb over. That's all. I think the engine itself is pretty solid because, as we've seen with Forza Horizon, it's built for weather changes. It's open world in design. So I feel like a lot of that could be used towards Fable and crafting the world there. As far as the RPG mechanics, that's what the new talent is for in the secondary studio. And at the same time, is the secondary studio, I can't imagine that they started out pretty big. Like a AAA studio should at least have 100 plus employees. I doubt the second studio had that like day one. Of course, you have to build up slowly. So that also has, growing pains and with a slow build up to make a AAA game like Fable. So I think any negativity is just, guys from the other camp just, trying to make a mountain out of a molehill here. But the game's gonna be fine. Just gonna take a little bit longer. And I think the engine is actually pretty well suited to what they're trying to make here. So I'm not worried. We see it when we see it. Like, it was only announced 2 years ago. So I feel like it's still within that window to make us wait a little bit longer. Hopefully they show us gameplay this year. That would be nice to, at least show us, tangible progress. But that's up to Xbox when that time is gonna be. So, but I'm optimistic we might see something this year. That's all.
All right, go ahead there, Centurion, with what you were gonna add on to.
I just wanted to come out, like, I remember being on a podcast back in the day with somebody that thought that that Fable being in existence was an absolute lie and a farce. And I even defended it on that show against all the other people that were very big Uber PlayStation fans. And I said, why could it not be there? I mean, like, look what they did with Forza Horizon 4, with how it took place in the United Kingdom. Their developers located in the United Kingdom. A lot of the members of Lionhead Studios were over there in the United Kingdom. I told them, I'm like, there's a lot of plausibility that can make this whole concept completely true. And they all thought I was full of crap. And then lo and behold, they released that teaser trailer and I was basically vindicated and like, oh, look at that. Imagine that. It was true. I have been championing Playground Games since I found out they were going to be doing Fable. And I totally believed that, I said farce. It's a farce. Basically, it's fake farce. Different. Sorry. No, I did not say that one. No, we gave up the high on life subject a while ago. I want to be making a joke like that now. Anyways, I completely stood behind the company making this game with the engine that they had because of what I saw in Forza Horizon 4. There was crowds there. They have ways of doing character design. They even had like a chicken suit that you could put your character in. There was a lot of hints of Fable because you could put your character in a chicken suit in Forza Horizon 4. They had, I mean, like, literally, I have always awed at the graphics in both Forza Motorsport and Forza Horizon, especially when it came to Forza Horizon's environmental design with the trees and the water effects and all that other great stuff that just makes Horizon, basically, in my opinion, one of the premier racing games that gaming has to offer. Like, I gave up on racing games many moons ago. And then I was exposed to Forza Horizon 3, and I have been a believer in what they can do over there with the Forza franchise and the graphics and just the uniqueness that they can create outside. Like, I was not a Gran Turismo fan at all. I am so for this company being allowed to branch out, being able to expand their portfolio, and be able to do something like, I mean, like, literally, that would be a slap in the face to Sony that, hey, our developers are that damn good over at Playground Games that they went from making racing games to this. I really do feel that Playground Games has the talent and the technology to create a really damn Fable game. I mean, really damn good Fable game, and I will never falter from that opinion. And that's one of those situations where I believe this particular studio, this particular situation should be given the time they need because they are literally trying to branch out and do something completely different. This isn't something like Bethesda games with Starfield, where these guys have a pedigree making open world games with the Fallout franchise, the Elder Scrolls franchise. Bethesda Games has made a legacy off of creating games of that style. They should really have it down to a science, and sometimes you do just got to shake your head at some of the situations that have been created over at these studios when I can't compare Starfield to Fable because the developer is trying to do something completely outside of their wheelhouse. And I honestly champion anybody trying to grow themselves, whether you're growing yourself as a company, as an individual. And I really do feel this will take Playground Games to another level when they get this game out in the market, to show that just because you have made your existence making one genre of game does not mean that you can expand into another one. And this will just do nothing more than give confidence to other studios that want to also go down the path of tackling a completely different genre of gaming.
All right, that's fair. No, interesting comment there. Okay, guys, I think on that, I mean, Shockley, if you want to comment before we head on, do you have any commentary regarding the Fable engine?
Not really. I mean, other than we know it's a new team working on the game, so obviously, and depending on when the story that's being reported, when that actually comes from, that could be further back. We don't know how exactly what point of the development that part was, or how big of an issue it really was. All they can take is somebody saying hey, this and this happened, and then I can write a story about it and sensationalize it a little bit. But stuff like this happens all the time with game development, of them changing engines. We saw with Halo, and obviously Halo came out the way it did, but I mean, especially them going to a completely different wheelhouse. They're not just coming from, hey, you're using the same IP and now it's with a new studio. I mean, it is in that sense, but it's like a completely new studio taking on their take on this franchise. So it's not coming right off. They didn't just come off of an entry in Halo or entry in Fable. So they're doing their whole thing and reinvent. It's going to be, I'm sure, completely a reimagining of what Fable was. So I'm not too uptight about it, especially since we know Bethesda titles are coming, straight to Game Pass, straight, other IP that they're investing in with those studios they purchased, with Machine Games, with all these studios they have under their umbrella, even before the Activision purchase. So, games are coming. Hopefully we'll get, a release date, this E3 for, Hellblade 2, because we already saw the gameplay. So, if that can come early next year, late this year, hopefully, fingers crossed. But so games are coming, so I'm not too pressed on this one of hey, they're deciding, they're switching up engines, or hey, they're having some trouble with the engine they were on, but we don't know if they're already past that, and they're oh, okay, yeah, we're good. But that's what happens when you don't show. We don't have anything to back it up, so if stuff comes out or rumors come out and then there's nothing to say counter it at all, or any footage, then we don't really have anything to go on. So the more and more we don't see it, that must be true. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I guess we'll find out soon. I hope. I think Fable's in good hands. Personally, I'm curious. I want to see even just early gameplay. That's all really. But I'm confident that they're pretty confident, at least with their first studio, with the Forza tech engine, and I'm very curious to see it in done in an RPG, and I think it'll look beautiful. But again, there's just a lot of curiosity. But again, time will tell, guys. Time will tell. Okay, guys. I think on that note, we'll dive right into our last talking point tonight, and it's our personal games of the year for 2022. Again, they don't have to be released this year. Just whatever you happen to play that may have impressed you during the past 12 months. General MLD, buddy, I'll start with you on this. If you had to pick your favorite game of the year, what would it be?
Okay, well, I think my honorable mentions are Proteus. That was a Doom-like FPS indie game that I played this year. Discovered that for the first, just by surprise, and just blown away by just how nostalgic it was, because I was an old school Doom fan growing up. And that game just took everything up a notch as far as pixelated, FPS games go. So I highly recommended that. I really liked that. I played Yakuza Like a Dragon. It was my first Yakuza game ever. So that was, again, a very pleasant surprise, a very nice gem, because I love turn-based games, turn-based JRPGs too. And it was so cool because it's a modern day Japanese kind of game. So they kind of make like random encounters like they really integrate the kookiness of a turn-based game into modern Japanese life, which I thought was the coolest thing. Like your party members, like you have this homeless guy who breathes like alcohol fire, and he's essentially your mage. Or you have like a retired cop. He's pretty beefy. He's your tank kind of guy. So it's funny how regular people were like are like they fit the roles of the party members of your JRPG team. So I thought that was pretty nice. The story was pretty good too. But my game of the year is Elden Ring. It's also my first Souls game I've ever played. I think what put me off in the past was that the other Souls games are pretty linear and unforgiving. I mean, this game was pretty tough too, but I think what made this game more accessible was two things. One, you have the horse, so you can get out of situations because your horse is faster than most of the enemies in the game. So there was that. Let's see, like when you die, it kind of like warps you close by to a boss room. So I feel because apparently in the other Dark Souls games, you kind of have to do some grinding or walk a ways if you fail from a boss room or whatever. In this, it's like you're taken right outside the boss door. So little things like that make it more accessible for a guy like me in the first time. But also just I think the part that made it more accessible to me was you can go wherever you want. In the other Souls games, you basically have I think it's more linear essentially. Like you can't just do whatever you want. Like there's this boss and it is locking you from exploring the rest of the game. Whereas in this game, if something's too difficult for you, just go somewhere else. Just explore around, level up, get better gear, and you can do other things in the meantime. And when you're powerful enough, then you go back to that boss that you were previously too weak to beat. So it's the little things like that made it really, really good for me to pick up and keep playing. Since it was my first time, I went with a glintstone magic build for more of the ranged attacks. I feel like that's understandable. It was my first game. Cut me some slack, guys. But I couldn't put it down. Like it was so addicting. I ended up putting 100 hours into the game. 2 playthroughs. 80 hours for the first playthrough. 20. I tried to see what I can do for a speed run on my second playthrough. That was like 25 hours. But I gotta say, near the end of the game, at the very end, I'd say the bosses got really, really tough. Like you couldn't cheese anything with your long range magic. You kind of had to really dodge and counter and parry, things like that. And it forced me to get really good, to learn. And it was so rewarding. You don't find that kind of feeling as much these days in modern games. That feeling of like having a tough fight, and if you lose, it's completely on you. It's not because the boss cheesed you or whatever. Like it was because it was your fault, and you come back to it. You learn the tells, and you beat it on your own strength. It felt so rewarding. Like being the final boss, it felt so good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever else. I hope because of Elden Ring's success, we get more games like it. Like I'm looking forward to Lies of P. That should be fun. Hopefully the game reviews pretty well. But now it's opened up a whole new world for me. Like I'm looking at Souls games now with a new set of eyes. And I think that, in my opinion, deserves Game of the Year. If you can sell that many copies, if you can appeal to the core Souls fan base, but at the same time attract millions of new gamers into it, like myself, I'd say that's just like almost like the perfect game right there. So, yep, can't praise it enough. That's my Game of the Year, Elden Ring.
All right. Yeah, I knew you were pretty high on Elden Ring to begin with, so no, that's awesome. That's awesome. You listed some pretty good games there: Elden Ring, Proteus, one or two others. Good stuff there, MLD. I think a lot of people in the chat agree with you. Let's see, moving on down the list. Eric Shockley, buddy. Hey, what were some of your favorite games of the year? Do you have a top one?
Yeah, I meant to get into a lot more games this year, but I just didn't have a ton of time. But hopefully starting to change that with some of that. I'm gonna definitely try to knock out some of these games before they leave Game Pass. But I would say one that probably like I don't know if I think I probably finished it like early January. I would say like Halo Infinite if I had to say one. Um, if that doesn't count, it just with that game there was a ton of fun just with it was kind of like when you had the first Halo game playing combat evolved and you're just trying to do all sorts of crazy stuff with it, like trying to get your warthog or ghost or whatever as far through the level, like almost game breaking where you're not supposed to be able to fit it through
Right.
to get it to the next part of the game. And I did that a lot with like leveling up the bases or getting your Marines to the point where they had a laser gun, and I would get a warthog full of them or get some of them to get sucked up to the beam, so they end up fighting the boss for me and lasering the shit out of them on legendary. So I did have a ton of fun in that sandbox. But I guess one that probably like actually dropped this year, I did spend a good amount of time in Tunic, which I found really cool with the how they had the little instruction manual like in the game where you had to like unlock parts of it, and you're kind of have to like it wasn't verbatim. You kind of had to like read it as kind of like a code of like it kind of scribbling of like, okay, what does this mean? But just kind of that whole world kind of had like that whole Fez Zelda like whole niche. So I think I'm pretty much at the end of that one, but just need to knock that one out. But I think I've given a ton of time into that one to say that one's pretty up there. So I just have a couple bosses that I'm at. I just need to knock them out. But I would otherwise I didn't get to start too much, but hopefully get to play a lot more this coming year. So hopefully it'll be a little bit freer now that I got my setup going. So but yeah, I would say probably Halo, and if I had to like take one that actually dropped in this year, I would say like Tunic just be my next best one. So
all right, that's fair. No, two very, very good games there, and I totally agree with you on the sandbox, and people in the chat do as well. Yeah, Halo has a pretty addictive sandbox, that is for sure. Moving down the list here, Centurion Buddy. Hey, I want to know what were some of your gaming highlights from the past year. What games? What stuck out this past year for you? Do you have like a top one, or is it a couple? Please tell us.
See, it's always hard to narrow down just one game. I mean, if we're talking like year to date, the one like what kicked it all off from this part of the year last year was, I already saw it mentioned in the chat. Came out of left field for me, but that was Guardians of the Galaxy. I had given up all hope on Square Enix, and Guardians of the Galaxy really impressed me. I couldn't stop playing that game. And then that went down, got transitioned into Dying Light 2. Like, cause I'm just basically going off of like, what games did I really feel like I had to absolutely beat? Then there was like, you remember when I went through the Sherlock, I actually blazed out all 3 of the Sherlock Holmes games.
Yeah, you did.
That was actually, now the fact that all 3 of those games were kind of, like, because they were all done by Frogware, that was actually a great set of games. But when it comes down to like, stuff that released this year, obviously there was Far Cry 6. Was this year?
2021.
Last year, but I mean, it could be just games that you played. It didn't have to come out this year.
Well, because I keep going back to Far Cry 6. I keep playing some of the content. Then there's I've put a lot of damn time into Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker saga. That game right there was probably one of the best Lego games I've ever played. Think it's odd that I play Lego games, but I mean, definitely, that was a great nod to the Star Wars universe. I think it was very well done how they connected all the games into one giant universe. And then obviously there's like, I keep going back to Elder Scrolls, like, with the High Tides DLC this year. So I've been really put all over the place. If I really had to put my finger on one that basically that I've put a lot of time into it, like throughout the year, that would probably Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker saga, but that's also just because I'm a crack fiend and I love collectibles. And I mean, there's 1,200 Kyber bricks in that game, and I've already collected like 1,100 of them.
Damn,
So,
gotta collect them all, huh?
oh, I know it's an addictive thing because some games you just don't want to get all the collectibles because you're just like, meh, I don't want to do it. But this one, it stuck with me.
All right, fair. No, some really good notable titles there. How about you, Crusader? I know, like, I could probably think of a couple of games for you that you've been talking about the past couple of months, but please let everybody know, like,
Yeah.
what over the past year, like, what games caught your eye? If you have like a personal favorite, please let us know.
Yeah, I did the game of the year fill out, and it's only got like 5 things total for backlog, so I'm just gonna go through that. My game of the year and my best narrative goes to Plague Tale Requiem. Excellent game, made it onto my top 5 list. 2 games actually made it. 3 games I played this year made it onto my top 5 list, and one of them got knocked out by another game that I played this year. Right? I mean, I played like 90 games this year. I think I'm at 93 that I finished, plus live services. And Plague Tale made it to my 4th position overall ever. I loved Plague Tale Requiem so much. That's like my personal best thing that Microsoft's ever added to Game Pass is Plague Tale Requiem. It's kicked off so far what has been 3 incredible months of Game Pass, October, November, and December. It was so good. And like I don't know how to. That's a game I really don't know how to describe without ruining it. If you've played Innocence, it's Innocence but better in literally every way.
That's true.
It is just so good. And I found the story to be incredible. The music was incredible. Then best gameplay and art direction goes to the game that's actually on number 5 on my favorite games list of all time right now, which is Horizon Forbidden West. I fucking loved Forbidden West. And then best soundtrack I had to give to Metal Hellsinger. You guys played Hellsinger? Hellsinger.
Oh yeah.
Bops. If you are a metal fan, Hellsinger bops, right? The every level done by a different like actual metal artist in conjunction with the developers for it. Incredible soundtrack. It's the only thing that I think was genuinely snubbed at the Game Awards. I really think that they should switch a best soundtrack and best like single or best like singular song. Because Metal Hellsinger had by far the best overall complete soundtrack, whereas like God of War had one really fantastic piece. And so like I think Hellsinger got snubbed for that. And best multiplayer, Destiny 2: The Witch Queen, baby. Until another game can create content as good as Destiny raids, there's not gonna be a better multiplayer game for me. You know, Destiny raids, the Valor of the Disciple raid this year, chef's fucking kiss. Rolk was one of the most fun fights to do with my friends of all time. It was wild. We were all screaming at it. We actually died. We wiped to the boss. But someone's rocket launcher, the cluster bombs on their rocket launcher, Wolfpack rounds. If you played Halo, or played Destiny, he was using Gallahorn. Actually killed it as we were fading to black, and everyone rezzed instantly because it counted as killing the boss before the wipe happened. And like so, like Destiny gotta be my best multiplayer game of the year. But my game of the year is Plague Tale Requiem. Hot shit, so good.
All right.
I convinced a few of my friends to buy the series and play into it now. I'm a little miffed that they removed Innocence from Game Pass.
Yeah, that was
It seems
surprising.
like such a strange move from both Focus Home / Asobo and Microsoft. Like, you'd think you'd want the whole franchise in there. You know what I mean? Luckily it's on sale everywhere. You want to get into Plague Tale right now? The first one is on sale for like $16 every platforms. If you play on PC, it's on sale, I believe, on the Xbox Store and on Steam. You play on Xbox or PlayStation, I'm pretty sure it's on sale on both. Go get Innocence, play Innocence, and then play Requiem. They're so good.
Mm-hmm. Now, as for myself, this year I didn't have like as much time as I would have liked, as Shockley was saying for him as well. The games that I could get into, I would say probably, and it may be surprising to some, I really liked Deathloop. That would probably be at the top there. I just thought that the level design was really good, the weapons, just the gunplay overall, and just I don't know, just how you approach things. I just really appreciate that. Of course, and that's done by Arcane, so I really appreciate what they did. And I liked again the main character in it, Cole, as well. It really surprised me with how much fun I was having with it. So I just really appreciated that game overall. Had a decent soundtrack. I like the art style. Voice acting was pretty good. Overall, just a good time with it. I still need to beat it, but I can just there's some games just you really gel with, and Deathloop was one of them. As well, I haven't gone all the way with this game, but Centurion and I were playing it earlier on in the year. That would be Strange Brigade, this like really wacky co-op game, third person like
That's
shooter.
one I wanted to mention when it was over my list. Strange Brigade.
Yeah, it just which we will get back into, but it's just now I'm back in action here, and we can start doing some stuff again. But it just I really like those kinds of co-op games, and I just thought it was a blast for its like wackiness, but it also had a lot of character to it as well. And yeah, actually, just to round this out, I know I'm really early into it, but High on Life is just really impressing me right now. I'm having a blast with it, and I could just see myself just playing the rest of it with a smile on my face and just thoroughly getting lost in it. So it's I'd probably list it there already on the top of my list, but yeah, I got a lot more games to play, though. But yeah, guys, I think that about does it for tonight's show. Really, really fun chat with the guys tonight, honestly, and just a great way to end off the year. We went over High on Life, our impressions of the game, a rumored Xbox showcase to take place early on in the new year, and a slew of other things. And if you enjoyed our chat and coverage tonight, then please consider leaving a like, sharing this episode out, and of course, subbing to the channel if you're new here. Next up, we will go to the outros for the cast, starting off with Crusader. But hey, good stuff tonight. Where can everybody follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm gonna be putting my link tree back up because that whole situation got completely undone in 11 hours. So I'll have my link tree back up that has all of my social medias up on there. But yeah, Crusader 3, 4, 5, 6 generally everywhere.
All right, good stuff. Moving on down here, the General MLD, buddy. Hey, love the commentary tonight as per usual. Where can all these fine people follow you at?
Thank you. You guys can find me at MLD Ghost on Twitter, and Gamertag is GhostMLD. So it was a great chat. I had a lot of fun, and yeah, we'll see what happens in the new year.
That is correct. Moving on down here, Centurion, buddy, pal, good stuff tonight. Where can everybody find you and your content at?
Well, gentlemen, it was a great conversation. Thank you to everybody that hung out in the chat with us tonight. For those that are wanting to follow me, you can find me at Centurion1307, YouTube, Xbox Live, and of course, Twitter. You can also find me on Gaming Beyond the Box 2 hours before this show starts. With Wilmy Hood and the amazing crew over there. And you could also find me after that show right here on the TXR Podcast with these amazing gentlemen.
Nice, good stuff. And Eric Shockley, buddy, hey, you had some really awesome input tonight. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, as always, you can find me at ShockNero on Twitter, Easy Shock on Xbox Live. But yeah, see you guys in a few weeks in the new year, and hopefully get that that announcement of the show or something to start us off. But see you later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to round out the gang, you guys can find me on YouTube at Invader Gaming. Also, check me out on Twitter at Invader_1986. Again, Timmy couldn't make it, but you can find him at XcloudTimdog. Now, I've seen some chatter in the chat, some commentary about if we're taking a break. Yes, guys, this will be the last show of TXR for 2022. we will be taking the next 2 weeks off. Again, there's not a lot going on, and everybody's got some stuff going on, right? Like there's not going to be a lot of news. All the companies are taking breaks, and yeah, we're just going to be doing stuff, right? But to all our viewers, honestly, guys, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever it may be. Just like honestly, enjoy yourselves, and I just hope you're all safe and sound. And again, we look forward to seeing you all back here January 8th. That's when we plan to be back. And again, like, I look forward to doing this show every week. I try to be consistent because, again, I love bringing you content. We all do. And from the bottom of my heart, honestly, it's great to have you here each Sunday. And if you tune in later, just, we really appreciate that you guys come, stop, listen, participate, and so on. You guys are phenomenal. So thank you very much. But on that note, guys, have a good one. We will see you next year. Later.